this is what we're doing now, and we have to roll with it. Um, generally speaking, a digital interview is very similar to a face-to-face interview. It still has a lot involved with nonverbal communication, so you can still see a lot of a person's presence and the way that they hold themselves, present themselves, but then also in the backdrop and everything that they select for their digital interview. So a student still has to prepare for a digital interview the same way they would prepare for a face-to-face interview. So they would get dressed up for that event. They would make sure that their technology is all correct and ready to go. And then they go and actually present their information to the employer based on the questions the employer asks them. But there are just a couple of things that students really do have to pay attention to. They obviously want to make sure that they see themselves from the eyes of the person reviewing them. And so they take a look at what the background of their image looks like. So they want to make sure that there's nothing behind them in the view of the digital interview that is going to be detracting from them. An interview is about you, and you want people to stay focused on you. Yesterday, I was doing a mock interview with a student, and their ceiling fan was on. And having a moving ceiling fan just kind of detracts the eye, and it takes some of the attention off of the interviewee. Since you're at home, you want to make sure that you silence all of your electronics, try to keep your family quiet, your animals quiet, anything like that, in order for you to truly focus on the interview.
Right.
Because it's easy to be distracted in a home-based situation.
So during these mock interviews, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen students have been going through?
This is what I see on resumes. This is what I see in cover letters. This is the biggest problem. People do not value their own experience. And people undervalue themselves because nobody wants to be a braggart. Nobody wants to be that, that braggadocious person. But in an interview, what other times of your life do you get to brag about yourself? Interviews. Interviews are the platform for you to be a huge braggart because people want to know what makes you a relevant, good candidate. And so people undervalue themselves. They undervalue their experiences. And so that really does seep into a person's brain. Because what it does is by undervaluing their experiences, they don't talk as highly about it, or they might use a word in exchange for a more powerful word. I think doing them over Zoom and video allows the student more flexibility because they're not freaking out about time and place.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're doing a face-to-face interview, you have to drive to the location, find a spot in the parking garage, walk from the parking garage into the building, go to the front desk, get a visitor tag, go up to the 6th floor, sit in the waiting area. And so I really think that it cuts out a lot of stress, a lot of locational stress. And it allows the student to have more of a grasp on what they're going to say because their head isn't thinking about where they park their car. They're thinking about how they're relevant to the company. So we've been doing mock interviews like crazy, left and right. Yesterday I did a mock interview with a student in South Korea. So wow. Yeah, isn't that cool? So we've been doing literally worldwide. We're doing mock interviews worldwide. But yeah, so in order to get a mock interview with Career Services, a student really just has to email the careerservices@cmo.edu email address. And then what we'll do is we will get it set up with one of our graduate assistants or professional staff members, and we'll conduct a mock interview. It usually does take a solid hour because we'll go through the most commonly asked questions. And then what we do is we go through them once, allow the student to answer the questions, but then we break it down and we go through each of their answers to talk about the highs and lows. Interviews really bring out some of those little foibles, those little nervous tics that people have. And so students really have to practice, and that's why we offer mock interviews, is that we want students to practice their interview skills, because if they've spent all 4 years waiting to get an interview with Edward Jones, they get an interview with Edward Jones, I don't want them to bomb their interview. I want them to succeed and get the job and go on to make lots of money and buy nice cars and fancy jeans. In Career Services, we've been busy. I mean, this has been a busy, we have not missed a step whenever it comes to going online and everything. And so we've seen a lot of resumes. We've been working on getting kids into grad school. The thing with this weird semester is that it'll come to an end and everything will go back to a different realm of regularity. And so just encourage students to just keep looking towards the future, prepare for the future, and to value themselves enough to put effort into their interviews and their resumes.